Influencers. That is the tag word lately. Have you noticed? YouTube influencers, social media influencers. There are influencers all over the place. The funny thing is, when you interview parents, when you talk to parents, particularly parents of teens, most of them are so worried about outside influences and the way they affect their teens. So how can we know what influences are negatively affecting our teens, and what can we do to inoculate and protect our kids against those influences? I will talk about that today on video 6 of the Understanding Teen series. Hi, I am MARCY AMARO, and I am here to give you the tools, the strategies, and the ideas that you need to help you design families and lives that are set for success. In this, the 6th video of our Understanding Teen series, I want to talk about outside influences. Because I know when I was growing up, peer pressure was the buzzword. And everybody was talking about how do you resist peer pressure? And what do you do with peer pressure? And even as parents, we are so concerned about how our kids are influenced by outside forces. And nowadays, with social media and videos and just technology being in front of their eyes and their ears 24/7, pretty much it feels like, we tend to really worry about what are our kids being exposed to, what influences are affecting the way they behave, the way they act. But we are going to talk today about some of the things that might actually cause those influences. What is going on in the teenage brain that makes them more susceptible to some of these things, and what we can do as parents to help minimize some of these effects. Now, before I go on, I want to start by saying this. You, as a parent, you are amazing. You care about your kids, you love your kids, that's why you're here, that's why you're watching these types of videos. You are trying to do everything in your power to give your kids every tool and every possibility, every opportunity to be successful and to do great in life. Now, we all know that sometimes kids do things that fall outside of what we can control, of what we can do. So none of what we talk about in this channel in general or in this Understanding Teen series is meant to place blame on you or to make you feel like there's something you're doing wrong. There's just simply some things that we can look at that maybe we can modify that might have a positive effect in the long run, with time, with persistence, minimize some of the things that we experience with our kids. But sometimes kids will do things, and we can't live in blame, and we can't live in guilt, and we can't live in this space where we feel like everything that happens is our fault, because then we can't do anything, then we're paralyzed. So nothing of what we're talking about is meant to be placed as guilt, or is meant to make you feel ashamed or like you're not doing a great job. You're amazing. You're doing so much in a period of time that is so chaotic, and you're still there, hanging in, being a committed person in your kid's life, and that is what matters most. So as we dive into this conversation, please keep that in mind. This is meant to be an encouraging and an empowering conversation, not a conversation that is going to lead to guilt, to shame, or to any sort of negative emotion. Now, adolescence is a period of increased social engagement, but also increased emotional intensity. Now, when those two things combine, we have kids that are looking more to their peers in a certain way, that they're trying to establish some of those new friendships and some of those new groups, but they're also at times moody, at times stubborn, at times kind of edgy and sharp in their responses. And we need to understand that all of these things are part of the mental processes that are taking place, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to accept all of it, or that we should just take a passive stance against it and go, well, that's just the way it is. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, like anything else in life, perception is everything. So how do we perceive these changes that are taking place? And do we see them as positive or negative? And that perception is going to affect what we project to our kids, the way we act around them, how we respond to some of the things that are happening, and how we handle some of the issues that we might be facing. So if we look at these times of increased social engagement and emotional intensity as a negative thing, we're going to be completely freaked out. Because here's what we're going to see. We're going to see only the risk of our kids falling prey to negative peer pressure. We're only going to see those times of moody, sharp, cutting remarks where they respond to us in a way that we don't anticipate. We're only going to see the resistance, and we're only going to see the negative talk that comes our way, and the shutting down, and all these negative things. We're going to see all the risks, and we're going to focus on those. And we are going to then create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to perpetuate these behaviors because that's what we anticipate, that's what we predict, so that's how they respond, that's how they act. But there is a positive perspective that we can take when it comes to all of this. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, the friendships that are created during this time of increased social engagement can be the greatest predictors of well-being, longevity, and just an overall sense of doing well in life for the long run, for their entire lifespan. So some of these friendships that they create during this time are the friendships that are going to propel them towards a wonderful, amazing future. So some of this is going to lead to amazing, wonderful, great possibilities and opportunities in the future. And if we can start focusing first on the fact that some of these friendships are going to uplift, encourage, and build our kids' resilience and ability to create, and the feeling that they can do certain things, and is going to build encouragement and positivity in them, then we can start letting go a little bit of that tension and that stress. Most of the kids that our children and students are going to encounter are going to be positive influences, and we need to operate from that belief. Are some of them going to be negative? Of course, we don't live in a bubble, but if they're surrounded by enough positives, they will learn to identify the negatives and either influence them for the better or remove them from their lives. We also need to understand that because of the mental processes that are taking place and some of the more refined thinking and processing of information that it's taking place cognitively, our kids during this time period are becoming a lot more selective. They're becoming a lot more selective in some of their processes and some of their decision making. So they will start fine-tuning how they select the people that they hang out with. They will start identifying those relationships and those friendships that don't serve them. We just need to make sure that we are there to support and to help them in the process. Now, the problem here is that during this period of time, because of their intense emotional reactivity, they start doing things that we interpret as pushing back, as moodiness, as just shoving us aside and being resistant to being near us. And we start interpreting that as no longer being needed. And that's a problem. Because if there is one thing that can counter negative influences, is our consistent and persistent committed presence in their lives. We need to differentiate between helping them build independence and becoming independent adults and separating ourselves from their lives. As Brené Brown says, when we stop asking for invitations into our kids' lives, they respond by thinking that we no longer want them. I'm paraphrasing, but she's right. If we stop asking how they're doing, asking about their friends and being interested in the things they do, not in a way of being nosy, but in a way of showing that we still care, that we're still interested. If we stop saying I love you, even if they don't respond, then we send them the message that it's time to cut ties, that it's time to move away from us. And then we resent when they do. So we need to make sure that we are constantly reinforcing the fact that we're here for them. If your kid starts acting in a way that is unusual, in a way that is not typical of them, saying something like, I've noticed that your behavior has changed a little bit, and I just want to let you know that if you need to talk about anything, I'm here for you. That's it. Just letting them know that you're available, just letting them know that you're willing to listen, and doing it in a way that is not nosy, that is not pushy, that lets them understand that you're not going to be judgmental or reactive about whatever they tell you, is going to open up so many doors and allow you space in there to remove some of the negative influences. So what are the things that we should try? What are the things that we can do in order to minimize the negative influences and increase our ability to still be part of our teens' lives even as they grow? Well, the first thing is Dr. Kevin Leman has a great metaphor that I love. He says that we need to show our kids that we're open for business 24/7. What that means is, as parents, we need to always be available, and our kids need to know that we are always available. How do we do that? Well, the first thing is, and I've talked about this before, when your kid first walks in the room, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, let your eyes and your smile show that you're so glad to see them, regardless of what might be going on. Always stop what you're doing, look into their eyes and smile, even if the next thing you have to say is not the best thing, even if you have to call their attention to something they did that wasn't great, to something they did that made you feel hurt or upset. So make sure that your eyes and your expression always show them that you're glad to see them, that you're available no matter what. Don't let the feeling of frustration when you're interrupted by them show. Because if you consistently allow them to see in your expression and in your demeanor that when they walk in the room, it's an interruption, it's a bother, they're going to stop coming in the room. And you would do the same as an adult, right? So make sure that your expression when you see them is always, first and foremost, I'm so glad you're here. Show it in your eyes, show it in your smile. And then if you need to move into a conversation that is not as pleasant, do so in a positive and productive way. But make sure that the first thing they see in your face when you look at them is how glad you are to see them. The second thing is, remember that I love you never grows old. They might stop saying it back for a bit. It's not going to be cool to say it in front of their friends. And it's not going to be cool to shout it across the field when they're talking to the person that they like. But saying I love you never grows old. If you tell your kid I love you every day, every time you have a chance, they are not going to resist it, and they're going to miss it when you don't say it. It never grows old. And they might roll their eyes and they'll be like, oh mom, oh dad. That's fine. That's part of the process. But they will still need to hear it. And if you ever stop saying it, they will miss it. And they will feel like something is lacking in their lives and in their interaction with you. So continue saying I love you, even if they don't reply. And finally, as Brené Brown suggests in what I mentioned earlier, keep asking for invitations into their lives. Keep trying to get involved in the things that they like and they enjoy. My little one is into K-pop. Do I understand or like K-pop? Not really. But do I listen to K-pop? Yeah. So make sure that you're still asking for invitations into their world. Ask about their friends, what their friends are like. Ask them, which one of your friends do you think is most likely to get in trouble? And why do you think that is? What do you think would happen? Ask them, which ones of your friends do you admire? Why do you admire them? Is there anything that goes on in some of your friends' houses that you wish we did? Ask for information, ask for feedback, ask for invitations into their world. And even when they do resist, even when they do push back, remember they're just trying to make sure that you're still going to be there no matter what. It's like when you get in the car and you put on your seatbelt and you do that little tug. I don't know if you do that, I do sometimes, but you put your seatbelt on and you do that little tug to make sure that it's holding. That's what they're doing. They're testing to make sure that you are going to be there no matter what. That you are going to persist and that you're not going to give up when things get tough. So that's it. 6 videos on understanding teens. I know that by no means was this information exhaustive. I know there's a lot more ground to cover. So I invite you to subscribe so that you can catch my videos every Monday and Wednesday as I dive into other topics related to teens, families, communication, and how to design families and lives that are set for success. I'm MARCY, AMARO, and thank you for taking the time to be with me. Make sure to subscribe, write your comments below, and I will see you on the next video.